Lead Masks Case. Part 1. Two men climbed a remote hill in Brazil in August 1966. 3 days later, both were found dead. Their names were Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viana. They were electronics and television repair technicians from Campos dos Goitacazes in the state of Rio de Janeiro. On August 17, 1966, the two men left Campos dos Goitacazes. They eventually reached Niterói in the early afternoon. Their movements in Niterói were later reconstructed from witnesses and receipts. They visited an electronics shop and bought 2 raincoats. They also stopped at a bar and bought a bottle of mineral water. Then they headed toward Morro do Vintém. That was the last known place where anyone could reliably account for them alive. 3 days later, on August 20th, an 18-year-old boy was flying a kite on the hillside. Then he noticed something strange in the grass. 2 men were lying side by side. They were already in an advanced state of decomposition. Both were wearing suits and raincoats, and over their eyes were strange masks made of lead. The masks were crude pieces of lead shaped to cover the men's eyes. Near the bodies, investigators found an empty mineral water bottle, 2 towels, and a small notebook. The notebook contained a strange sequence of timed instructions. One line referred to taking a capsule. Another mentioned waiting for a signal. But the strangest part was still to come. Why would 2 electronics technicians climb a remote hill wearing homemade lead masks? Why did they bring a timed set of instructions? And what exactly were they waiting for? The investigation would raise more questions than answers, and the truth about what happened on Vintém Hill would remain unknown. The investigation began with more questions than answers. Who were these 2 men? Why had they traveled from Campos dos Goitacazes to Niterói? And what were they expecting to happen on that hill? Police began reconstructing their final movements. Manuel Pereira de Cruz was 32 years old. Miguel José Viana was 34. Both worked as electronics technicians, specializing in television equipment. On August 17th, they left Campos dos Goitacazes and traveled to Niterói. Their movements that afternoon could be partially reconstructed through witnesses and receipts. They visited an electronics business. They purchased raincoats. Later, they stopped at a small bar near Morro do Vintém and bought a bottle of mineral water. The waitress later remembered something unusual about Miguel. He appeared nervous, and he repeatedly checked his watch. That detail became important because the notebook found beside the bodies contained specific times: 4:30 p.m., 6:30 p.m., and instructions involving capsules, a strange reference to protecting metals, and waiting for a signal. But nobody knew what the signal was supposed to be, and nobody knew what was inside the capsules. Then, investigators faced another problem. The bodies were already badly decomposed. The forensic examination could not establish a clear cause of death. No reliable toxicology result could tell investigators whether the men had been poisoned. And without that evidence, one of the most important questions in the entire case remained unanswered. What actually killed them? The lead masks made the mystery even stranger. Why had 2 electronics technicians made or obtained masks that covered their eyes? Were the masks part of some experiment? Were they connected to the mysterious instructions? Or were they simply part of a belief or ritual known only to the 2 men? There was no evidence that could give investigators a definitive answer. Then another detail entered the case. Reports suggested that the men had been carrying a substantial amount of money when they left home, but the amount found with their bodies was far smaller. This created another possibility. Could robbery have been involved? But that theory had problems too. There was no identified killer, no clear weapon, and no confirmed explanation for the lead masks or the strange notebook. As investigators continued searching for answers, another possibility began attracting attention. Some people believed the two men were involved in a strange experiment connected to UFOs or extraterrestrial contact. Later accounts even mentioned reports of unusual lights in the sky, but there was no conclusive evidence proving that the men had encountered anything extraterrestrial. The strange lights remained a report. The masks remained physical evidence. The notebook remained real, but the meaning behind them remained unknown. And the most important piece of evidence, the substance inside those mysterious capsules, was never identified. The investigation had a body. It had witnesses. It had a strange note. It had two lead masks, but it still had no answer for the most basic question. How did Manoel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana die? And that question would become even harder to answer when investigators discovered just how badly the forensic examination had failed.
The evidence that could have solved the mystery was already disappearing. The bodies of Manoel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana were badly decomposed when the autopsy was performed. Investigators were unable to establish a definite cause of death. There were no clear signs of a violent struggle. But there was another problem. The toxicology testing that could have revealed what the men had swallowed was never reliably completed. And that meant one of the most important clues in the entire case was gone. What was inside the capsules? Nobody knew. Were they medicine, a drug, a poison, or something completely different? There was simply no reliable test left to answer the question. And without that evidence, investigators had to look elsewhere. The lead masks became one of the most important clues. Why had two electronics technicians deliberately made masks that covered their eyes? One possibility was that they were expecting some kind of intense light or unusual phenomenon. But that was only an interpretation. The masks proved that the men expected something. They did not prove what that something was. Then there was the mysterious notebook. The surviving transcription described a precise schedule. Be at the designated place at 4:30 in the afternoon. At 6:30, ingest the capsule. Then came the strangest instructions. Protect the metals. Wait for the signal. And the meaning of those words has never been established with certainty. Even the exact translation of the note has been debated because the original wording and punctuation are not preserved in a completely reliable form. PMIG 96+1. Then investigators began hearing other stories. Some witnesses reportedly described strange lights in the sky around the area. One account mentioned a strange bluish object. Another described unusual lights near the hill. But these reports were never proven to be connected to the deaths. And this is where the case became surrounded by theories. Some people believed the men were conducting a dangerous experiment. Others suspected poisoning. Another theory suggested robbery followed by murder. And eventually, the most extraordinary theory of all began to spread. UFO contact. Perhaps the two men had climbed the hill expecting to receive a signal from something beyond Earth. Perhaps the lead masks were intended to protect their eyes. Perhaps the capsules were part of some strange experiment. But there is one problem with all of these explanations. There is no conclusive evidence proving any of them. No confirmed poison, no identified murderer, no proven UFO, no confirmed experiment, and no explanation for the masks. There was also the question of money. The men had reportedly left home carrying a large amount of cash. Much less money was found with their bodies. That raised the possibility of robbery. But again, the evidence was incomplete. No killer was identified, no weapon was established, and no clear connection between the missing money and the deaths was ever proven. PMIG 96. Decades passed. The strange objects remained, the notebook remained, the stories remained. But the answer did not. And perhaps the most frustrating part of the entire case is this. We may never know whether the capsules caused the deaths. We may never know what the men were waiting for. We may never know why they believed they needed lead masks. And we may never know what happened during those final hours on Vintém Hill. 2 men went up the hill with a plan. 3 days later, they were found dead. Their masks were still over their eyes. Their strange instructions were beside them. And the evidence that might have explained everything was never properly recovered. More than 60 years later, the lead masks case remains unsolved. Maybe the answer was something ordinary.